Is Ecuador really cheap and safe, or are Americans like Graf just sugarcoating it? I called him up so we could uncover the truth about living here.
I'm not getting any younger. We made the dream a reality. We opted for a big adventure. Anywhere you go, there's going to be a criminal element. It's frustrating to see all the bad press Ecuador's getting. We certainly could have stayed in Kansas City. I figured I'll take my chances, and I'm knocking on wood as I say this. It covers fire damage, flood, tsunami, any kind of natural disaster, earthquakes.
We talk about the real cost of retirement versus back in the US, whether foreigners can actually own property here, what home, car, and health insurance expats are using here, how safe the country really is, and finally, how Ecuador's yearly property taxes can be less than a dinner back home, even on oceanfront properties. Let's get into it. So you guys have spoken, and we are going to deliver. Now we have lots of comments, lots of curiosities, lots of feedback from the community. Boop, 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 boop. All of these people have given us different things to talk about, and there's 5 very important, very specific things that we're going to mention now that you guys were asking about in the comments. How's it going, Graf? How are you doing today?
Doing great, Eric. Good to be here again, and hope we can answer some of these questions your viewers have.
I'm glad to be here with the famous Graf, and we want to get some of that confusion out of the way. So we're going to start by talking about Spanish in Ecuador. People were confused. They weren't sure if you speak Spanish or not. Maybe they thought you were getting taken advantage of, or you're having a difficulty there because you don't speak Spanish. What is your Spanish level like?
Well, I speak decent Spanish. I can carry on a pretty decent conversation with people. I can navigate things like registering my vehicle and getting it inspected, and all the things associated with doing that, which is an interesting process. I can navigate banking matters in Spanish. So I feel fairly comfortable in my level of my speaking ability. Am I fluent? No, far from it. But I know enough to get by pretty darn well. I had 6 years of Spanish back in high school and college years, but that was eons ago. It was never used after that. So it's kind of moving to Ecuador is a big refresher course for me. So, and not many people speak English here as far as Ecuadorians. So that kind of forces you to learn it, and which is, that's appropriate. I think we're in their country, we're guests in their country. You need to speak their language as best you can.
So for anyone thinking about moving to Ecuador, you think it's a kind of a necessity, or how much of a necessity do you think it is to have?
Well, I definitely recommend knowing the basics. The nice thing about technology nowadays is, you've got all these translators right there on your phone. So at a minimum, at least have Google Translate and try to know, the pronunciation, how to pronounce the words, when they pop up on your screen, so that you can try to carry on that conversation with the Ecuadorian in Spanish. And thank goodness for Google Translate. I still use mine probably more often than I should, but it's a nice backup plan. Obviously, it's best to get at least a basic grasp of the language. So, and that goes a long way with the locals also.
Right. There actually are a lot of different platforms and things like Duolingo online. You can practice. You practice on YouTube. I actually give classes. I'm a Spanish and Portuguese teacher for basic Spanish and basic Portuguese. So if anyone's interested, let me know. But in general, I do agree with that. And I think a lot of the viewers were kind of curious, like maybe some of the things you were dealing with was because of a lack of Spanish. And you're saying that it's not, right?
It can be frustrating at times to some degree, but has it been a struggle, a daily struggle? Not at all. Again, my level of Spanish is enough where I feel comfortable in navigating life here in Ecuador.
Graf, another thing people brought up, we're talking about insurance, because that's another one of the big expenses in America. And let's talk about insurance related to health, auto insurance, and the house insurance. That was another big topic, a big comment, came up many, many, many times. Let's talk about the auto insurance. Do you have auto insurance on your car? Is it necessary? Let's talk about that.
Well, I do not. You can certainly purchase it here, but in Ecuador, it's not a law to have your vehicle insured, unlike in North America. So I opted not to have that. Time will tell if that's a good or bad idea. I've heard stories of people having issues with insurance companies and paying out for damage to their property. So I figured, well, I'll take my chances, and I'm knocking on wood as I say this, and just do without it. So, but I have priced it. I have a 2013 Toyota pickup truck, a little dual cab, pretty basic. And the quote I was given, this was about 2 years ago. Oh, I think the monthly rate was going to be around $30 a month, something like that. Not expensive. So, but I choose not to have it.
I actually realized that when I drove down from Minnesota, I went through Mexico. Mexico doesn't require it. All other countries that I drove through on the way down here to Peru and all of the countries that I drove through on the way down to Colombia and Ecuador and Peru required it besides Ecuador. So it was kind of an interesting thing for me to see that, oh, okay, so Ecuador and Mexico don't. I mean, I think some states in the US also don't. But anyways, that's something people were very interested to know about. Another thing is the house insurance. Now, you said you have insurance on one of your houses. Is that right?
That's correct. I have homeowners insurance on our primary house at the beach. The yearly rate is about $550 for the policy, and it's fairly inclusive. It covers fire damage, flood, tsunami, any kind of natural disaster, earthquakes, theft of property. So it's a fairly thorough policy as far as what it covers. Again, I've never had to use it, thank goodness, but not sure if I'll renew it next year or not when it comes that time, but it is available, and probably doesn't hurt to have it if you can afford it. So.
Sure. And from what I understand, you actually have a property in Quito, and you don't have insurance on that, right?
Correct. My wife and I own an apartment in the historic center of Quito. This is a small two-bedroom apartment, and we do not carry insurance on that.
So from what I understand from a little bit of research that I've done, a lot of countries just don't have the same type of risks that we have in America and the US. There's a lot of extreme weather. And then the way properties are built recently in the US in the past couple hundred years it makes it kind of prone to these things. So it's something that I think it's kind of a change in perspective of going to other countries that have differently built houses. It's not actually necessary.
I've met expats, explored prices, walked the streets, and looked into safety. If you're serious about Ecuador, check out my full playlist for real boots on the ground info.
Another big comment, Graf, is that we have people asking about health insurance. This is probably the number one comment about people, because I think a lot of the viewers are in a certain time of their life where they think it's super, super important to have it. They want to know, do you have it, and what's going on with that?
Right, and very solid question. Again, like you said, many of our viewers were inquiring about. My wife and I currently do not have health insurance, and that can be good and bad. We're in pretty good shape right now, pretty good health. We're still fairly young. Try to take care of ourselves, but that doesn't mean that down the road, as we age, like everybody does, that we're not going to have issues. We just found in the current moment, given our state of health and whatnot, that it wasn't a necessity. That being said, a lot of people retiring to Ecuador are going to be an older age bracket than my wife and I, and will probably have some type of medical needs. So, insurance would be recommended and beneficial to their situation. Cost-wise, I can't give you an exact number because we've never really checked into it. I've heard from other expats that do have it. It can be anywhere from $50 to $150 for a monthly premium for a good plan. And I think for the most part, I think the majority of expats in Ecuador probably do have health insurance. So.
For anyone looking for very specific details on health insurance, you can check out this other video with Mike. I interviewed Mike in Cuenca, and Cuenca is one of the biggest expat hubs in Ecuador. Some of the best healthcare is in Cuenca as well, alongside Quito. And he actually talks about the exact numbers. He's 72, and he perhaps has a bit more of a precise idea on that. So check out that video. Graf, like you mentioned, you're quite young. So have you thought about at what point you're going to start maybe paying for the health insurance?
I haven't put a lot of thought into it, actually. But yeah, I'm not getting any younger. So I should probably put that on a list. I'm 54 right now. I'll probably, in the next few years, maybe when I get a little closer to 60, start seriously looking into having some coverage. So.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, you should always be open to the idea, even though you're in good shape, you're in good health.
Yeah.
And
you never know. Perfect health and not perfect health, but somebody can be in perfect health and boom, things go south. So
I think another thing that people are a little confused about is the quality of the healthcare. And since you don't really have any super specific info to give to us, in that video with Mike that I mentioned, guys, you can check out. He talks about what he thinks about the quality of healthcare in Cuenca and how the private facilities are pretty phenomenal. So, guys, check out that video so you can get a bit more input on the quality of healthcare as well.
Yep.
So, Graf, many people were curious about the cost of living side of the video and what we talked about, and I think perhaps there is a bit of a kind of confusion. And since I edited it so short, it was quite a long chat that we brought it down to really, really small consumable size. Let's talk more about that cost of living. People were saying, oh, it's so expensive. Oh, this is expensive. That is expensive. And many people have given their own input, their own numbers on living back in the United States. And some people are giving their numbers from Florida, from Wisconsin, from all these different places. And I think it's good for us to talk about the cost of living and clarify that the number we gave, the $1,800 per month, what did that all include?
Well, so that 1,800 number in the last video, that was for an average monthly expense at my primary residence on the beach there, the White House. And that was a theoretical number that included $1,000 rent, which is what that house would rent for on average in that area and for the amenities the house has. So that 1,800 number, again, that included 1,000 of that number was for rent.
Right. So I think that's perhaps a thing that maybe we didn't, or I didn't explain very thoroughly, is the fact that your actual budget, your monthly budget without rent was $800. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So now I want to compare that $800 monthly budget that you had in San Jacinto. Let's make a comparison to what you would be paying. For example, if you hypothetically you stayed in America, in Kansas, where you're from, and let's compare those two costs of living for retiring in either San Jacinto or Kansas. Let's put those side by side.
Sure. So again, these numbers, these comparisons do not include rent or a mortgage. They're strictly for utilities, things like electricity, water, natural gas, internet, and food. We're kind of extracting the rent and mortgage from these numbers, just to clarify for everybody. So hypothetically, if we had stayed in Kansas City, retired there, our monthly overhead would have been about $1,500, utilities and food. Now at the beach house in San Jacinto, that number is about $800, again, utilities and food. The problem with the numbers, and especially electricity and natural gas in Kansas City, is because of the temperature extremes between summer versus winter. Your electric and gas bills can vary quite a bit in between seasons. There's a little bit of that on the coast at the beach house with the electricity because of the use of air conditioning for about 3 to 4 months out of the year, but it's not the extreme that you have in the Midwest there in Kansas City.
So the Kansas City number you gave with the $1,500 per month, what was the utility part of that?
So the electric, for example, and this is an average yearly amount. that would be about 250 to 300. Again, that's an average amount, taking the two extremes, because wintertime the electricity is going to be lower, summertime it's going to be higher. So about 300 on electric. Natural gas, again, we heat our homes with natural gas there. That number is going to be higher in the winter versus the summer, but an average is about 200 year round on that. Internet, we were paying about $100, $9,500 a month for high-speed internet. It's pretty steep. Our water bill, and this can vary a lot depending on the size of the yard you have in the Midwest. We had a good sized yard. We did a lot of watering plants, that kind of thing. But our average, again, yearly amount, it was about 175 to 200 or so a month.
So the total expenses for just those utilities and the basics per year in Kansas, what was that? Seems to me it was like between 600 and 1,000 almost.
Yeah, it was going to be around 800, 900 or so for utilities alone. So
per month, 800 or 900 per month.
Per month, and we were spending on average about 600 on food. The utilities were up there.
So for people that are curious about this, we were talking about just utilities getting above $500 or $600 per month staying in Kansas. Now, currently you are not on the beach, right? You're not in San Jacinto anymore, and you're not in Kansas. You're in the mountains. Now, people perhaps want to know, what does it cost to live in a place like that, but with rent included? And now you're actually paying rent. So how much do you pay in rent, and what is your total budget in Cotacachi where you are now?
Sure. Very good question too. So the house rent in Cotacachi now, it's about an 1,800 square foot house, 1,500 square meter lot. And we got a very large lot. I think that equates to maybe just under half an acre or so. We pay $500 a month, and the home was unfurnished. We had our own furniture and appliances. Our utilities are, they're averaging about $60 a month. That it's electricity, propane, and internet and water. So way cheaper than the beach. And gosh, just our utilities and rent here are way less than just our utilities would have been in Kansas City.
And what is the total budget that you have, including rent per month, including food and rent and all that in Cotacachi?
Here in Cotacachi, about $1,000 for. Yeah, about $1,000. We eat out a little bit more here than we did on the coast. A little better selection, a variety of restaurants here. So about $1,000, maybe $1,100.
So to put that into perspective, we mentioned that you were paying $500, $600, $700, or even up to $800 in just utilities, the basics for maintaining your house and maintaining your life in Kansas, and now you're able to pay that in total with rent included for around $1,000, and the utilities are more expensive than paying your rent in the new place where you are now. Is that right?
That is correct. Yes.
So is that kind of a factor why you think that maybe living in the U.S. is maybe not a very high value place to be? Like, for example, I recognize that you actually considered to be like the middle upper class in the United States, and people are thinking, well, Graf and all of these guys and all these retirees and all these people that are just escaping the United States, they're leaving because they can't afford the United States. And I feel like that's kind of a confusion between the story we're telling and just trying to get good value for your money and for what you want. Did the cost really have that big of a reason for you to move?
Not at all. That wasn't a factor at all. We were upper middle class, a nice home, a successful business, and whatnot. We could have afforded to retire there in Kansas City. Maybe other parts of the country might have been a little touchy, East West Coast, where cost of living's higher. But in the Midwest, we easily could have retired there. We just didn't want to. A little background information. My first trip was to Ecuador in 2011. And after that first trip, I fell in love with the country. It was eye-opening on so many different levels. And I said, someday I'm going to retire there. And it had nothing to do with affordability and how inexpensive the cost of living is here in the country. For me personally, and it's different for everybody, it was wow, this is just amazing. I want to be here. And I made that dream come true. And thankfully, my wife was on board with it after her first trip to Ecuador in 2016. But so we made the dream a reality. We certainly could have stayed in Kansas City and lived the rest of our lives out in the rat race there. Been close to family and friends, but we opted for a big adventure.
Well, a big adventure indeed. It definitely is to just leave America, but going so far away and going to a country that has such negative press all the time. I mean, I'm sure you get questions all the time. Hey, so you're in Ecuador. Oh my God. Like everyone's so surprised. And you're like, well, nothing crazy is going on here, right?
Exactly. It's frustrating to see all the bad press Ecuador's getting. Yes, there are some issues here right now. There's been an uptick in predominantly cartel-related crime. Fighting in between the cartels, but it's overall it's a safe country. And I always tell people, anywhere you go on this planet that you find other people, there's going to be a criminal element, and things happen, unfortunately. It doesn't mean that whole area is bad. And, South Chicago is, they say very dangerous. It doesn't mean the whole state of Illinois is unsafe and don't go there. The same applies to Ecuador. There are hot spots in Manta and Guayaquil right now. You just don't go to those areas. But if you just, you stay smart about it, situational awareness, I always preach that, you'll be just fine.
Fine. As I mentioned to people all the time, if you stay out of the drug trafficking type of business, if your plan is to fight against the drug traffickers and gain their turf, you're going to have a bad time. But if you stay outside
you're gonna
of
have
that,
a bad day.
if you stay out of that zone, of that type of business, you're going to be pretty much all right. And that brings me back to like the idea why a lot of people become expats or immigrants. Some people kind of confuse the two terms. Expat just means in the eyes of America, you're an expat, and then in the eyes of Ecuador, you're an immigrant. So technically, you're both because you have the visa to stay there, and you also are not in America. So for an expat to go there, I mean, you can see why being in a new place, it has all these different things to keep you entertained. I mean, this is another thing that people brought up in your video is that, he was bored on the beach, and he, maybe it was just not a lot of things to do. And that's why I always mention, well, being an expat, going to live somewhere else, you can find those places where you feel like you have a lot of activity. And that's the wanderlust, for that, like that quote hashtag type of thing, wanderlust, going to a new place where you can enjoy learning every day. And that's one of the things I live abroad for, is to be able to practice speaking different languages, learning their history, getting a better understanding of the world. And also just, like you said, some of the activities you wanted to go to Cotacachi for were for the culture. Can you give us a couple of the activities you've been enjoying over there?
Goodness, well, it seems like there's constant festivals up here in this Sierra. Indigenous-based festivals and parades. There's just one in downtown here, Cotacachi, a couple days ago. Everybody's wearing their traditional outfits and music, and it's really neat to spectate that and not necessarily be a part of it, but watch it as an expat and see their traditions and see their costumes and music and everything. It's for me and my wife, it's one of our favorite things so far about being up here. About 15-20 minutes up the road, you have the Otavalo outdoor market, the largest market in South America, I've been told. Again, amazing things there to see and buy, and you're part of the indigenous culture. Everybody's bringing their wares and goods to sell. Last week we went to an archaeological site about an hour and a half from here, Gualiman. There were some earthen mounds on top of a mountain built in about 1500 BC. Again, so that's going way back, ancient history of Ecuador. So we really are thankful to have some of those opportunities very close to us now, and we love it. Just absolutely love it. So
if you're enjoying this interview and you're interested in seeing more content like this, you can check out my playlist called the Expat Interview Playlist, where I have been interviewing people from Guatemala all the way down through Central America and now here in South America.
We also had a lot of people asking questions, not only about your properties and kind of getting the information about those, but also just how it is to be able to or try to own property as a foreigner in Ecuador. So can you give us information about your properties on the beach that are for sale? And then perhaps we can chat a bit more about taxes and that after that.
Yeah, so I've got two homes for sale at the La Boca sector of San Jacinto, which is a small fishing village north of Manta, about 1 hour. Manta being a fairly major coastal city with all the amenities. My primary house, our main residence there, is about 1,500 square feet. Has swimming pool, dishwasher, all the modern amenities, custom made furniture, oceanfront, obviously. We're asking 200,000 for that. Price is negotiable. My second house is I use as an Airbnb and a rental. It's 2 houses over from my primary residence, and it's actually an interesting layout because it has an upper apartment and a lower apartment, but you can use the whole house as well. So it's got a very versatile layout. It can be used as a single family residence, or you can rent out the upper apartment, rent out the lower separately. And we're asking 125,000 for that, and beachfront too, obviously. And recently, everything was updated about 4 years ago. Paint, all new appliances, furniture, the whole works. It's actually a very nice home. So,
can you mention the area for each one of those? I'm not sure if you did yet.
So for my primary residence, sorry, I don't know it in square feet, but in meters, it's 200 square meters, the lot. And then for the Airbnb, it's a 250 square meter lot. Sorry, I know the square footage of the houses in feet, but the lots, I don't know the conversion offhand. So.
For people that are interested, they're curious about knowing about, can you own these properties as a foreigner? And you actually mentioned to me, for you to get your wife her visa, you actually put one of the properties in her name for that investment visa. Is that right?
Correct. A foreigner can definitely own property here. The process really isn't too difficult. In my wife's instance, since we lived here permanently, she needed a visa, something outside of the standard tourist visa that's issued when you enter the country. So the easiest way for us to do that was to put the rental in her name, and that provided her the investment visa. So.
Right. And let's talk a bit about the taxes, because since you own 2 properties on the beach, how much do you pay taxes for them? And kind of give us a ballpark of the percentage of the total value of those properties.
Yeah, so the local municipality will value the properties similar to what they do in the United States. The percentage is a little under 1% of their valuation of your property. For example, my primary residence is yearly. The property taxes are about $125, give or take a little bit. And for my rental property, it's about $85 a year.
And another person brought up the fact that they were interested to know if a foreigner can own land, because owning the property doesn't necessarily mean you own the land. So with these properties that you're selling, the prices you're giving are for both the property, the building itself, and the land, right?
That is correct. Both, the land it sits on and the structure itself.
A foreigner wouldn't have any issues being the owner of land in Ecuador. It's not like certain places like in Asia, I know, for example, and Thailand and Vietnam, they're pretty strict about having some, foreigners partner with locals in order to be the owner. In this case, that doesn't happen.
That's not the case here in Ecuador.
Let's finish off our little chat and our follow-up with one last thing that many people brought up, which is, well, why don't you go to Cuenca, right? Cuenca is the place to be.
Goodness.
And I did actually a lot of my videos in Cuenca. You can check those out here on the Ecuador playlist that I have to go through all that stuff. Cuenca is actually my favorite city in Ecuador. Why not Cuenca?
Well, to be upfront with everybody, we have not been to Cuenca yet. It is on our list. We hear it's an absolutely amazing city, very well preserved, architecture, culture, all of those wonderful things that my wife and I do truly enjoy. For us, I think the biggest reason we weren't drawn to Cuenca is that whole Cuenca attitude. And I'm probably going to tick off some viewers here, but there seems to be a certain attitude with Cuencanos, expats, that they're kind of the center of Ecuador. Everything revolves around them. And it's, there's more to Ecuador than just Cuenca. And there is a very large expat community there. I don't know the number, but I've heard it's in the thousands. And that just wasn't, we felt, a good fit for us. We wanted something a little smaller, a little more quaint, and more immersed in the indigenous culture. Again, everybody has their own personal preference. You got to do what's right for you and what's a good fit for you. And for a lot of expats, Cuenca is a good place to be, and there's nothing wrong with that. We'll make it down there one of these days to visit, but as far as living there, I don't predict that happening.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, it's definitely a place to visit, and if you get down there, we can do a follow-up, and you can chat about your experience in Cuenca. Yeah. I might be passing through Cotacachi when you're back, Graf. I haven't decided yet when I'll be going back down to Peru, so perhaps we can do a meet in person follow-up after this, a double follow-up, and really see, and I could show everyone Cotacachi, the city you're staying in, and show everyone perhaps the apartment that we mentioned, and what a place like that for $500 actually looks like. So I really appreciate you giving all of this follow-up info for us, for my community, and to give the people the answers to all their curious questions.
Again, pleasure being here. Hope this helps clear up some confusion on some of the comments, and hope it's informative for everybody. I appreciate everybody's views and comments. Keep them coming.
Yep, guys, and I really want to thank you all for giving us your input, your feedback, your criticism, giving us some things to think about, because sometimes I'm scratching my head like, oh, yeah, that's a pretty good point. So guys, keep those comments coming, and thank you so much for giving your feedback and to give us some questions and things to think about, so that we can do this follow-up and keep on having a nice conversation about living in Ecuador as a foreigner, as a North American, or for wherever you are. So thank you so much, Graf, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Hasta la próxima.
Okay. See you next time.